Hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. How are you
Good
doing?
evening.
Well, we're live here on our Awakenings Within Evening Edition. I don't know why I'm being so formal, but I like to call it the Evening Edition, the Morning Edition. Very simple, straightforward, right to the point. Anyways, my name is J. Scott McMillan, and I'm here with my friend and other life coach, Suzanne Lee Hearn. And today we are missing our cohort, Sandy Archer, who is vacationing in Florida and has given us, I guess, the green light and the confidence to go forward. I don't know. I guess she thinks we can handle it. What do you think, Suzanne?
Well, I think we can handle it, but we are not happy that we got left behind. Let's just say
I
that.
know. We'd all like to be in Florida. That'd be kind of
Yeah,
a nice place.
her on location was lovely,
Yes, yes.
and she is a happy girl by the beach.
I know. That's definitely her happy place.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
So,
How you doing, buddy? Well, so let's see. We are it's 21st of May. Hard to believe that it's going to be June, which to me, when it hits June, it's summer. It's like
yeah.
whatever they say on the calendar, like June is summer. And I still have this clock in my head that I only have 3 months of summer: June, July, and August. I grew up in Montana, and you really only had 3 really nice months in Montana. Those months, though, June, July, and August, are the best place to be in the world. In June, July, and August in Montana, there's no humidity. It's about 80, 85, sunny.
Perfect.
It's perfect. But other than
Yeah.
that, it's not very perfect otherwise.
It goes downhill, huh?
Goes downhill. Yeah. So, how you been doing? What's new with you?
Hey, it's been a good day. Well, speaking of regions that we live in, so Kansas City seems to be where you can't have one sunny day. Well, you can't have 2 sunny days in a row.
I know.
So
What's up with
today
that?
was mostly sunny, and so I feel good. Yesterday, not so much.
Yeah. I was in a little bit of a funk yesterday, a little bit of a mood funk, and and it's weird because without having to get out of the house. I mean, there are days now when I don't get out of the house, and it's just weird. And even before I've worked from home or for myself now for around 10 years, but I've always gone out and done things,
Yeah.
or I actually preferred to work out of coffee shops. So I was always in and out of coffee shops, meeting people, doing this, that, and the other thing. And now it's just like there are days I don't go out of the house, and especially on a gloomy day, it's kind of weird. It's different.
Well, and I always went out of the house as well, but I don't have that problem anymore. Like I could stay in the house all day and not feel odd about it now, but I actually physically, and my daughter that I live with, we both yesterday physically did not feel well. And of course, with all this going on, you think, oh my gosh,
Right.
what, did something, we're taking our temperature and checking the internet for our symptoms. And it's like, oh crap, which is, something is going. And so something, I mean, if it's psychosomatic or just the weather,
Right.
the pollen or whatever, but when it gets cloudy like it has been for me, I have physically not felt good. And that was me yesterday. It was just like, oh.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's interesting. Well, people say that with the weather, as the weather changes from cold to warm or vice versa, they can feel it. And I've always heard you can feel it in your joints or whatever, but also people, I've noticed now that the allergies will kick in with the temperature changes. There really hasn't been much of a temperature change, but it is interesting that it seems to be coordinated with cloudiness for you.
Yeah, the cloud. Yeah, cloud, and well, I I don't mind if it's cloudy, but it's the cold cloudy. If
Yeah,
those two are in combination.
right. And at least yesterday was fairly warm. I did get out and do a little walk, and it was 70 or so, and that was nice. But but that's the other thing. By the way, hi Bill. Bill joined us, and if you're joining, say hi to us, because I can't really see who's joined unless you say hi. So I'd love to say hi to you. And usually this is our Miss Sandy. She's really good at welcoming people on there, so I'll try to do the best I can. But I can only see if you say hi to us. So I'd love to have a hi. Say hi to us. Also
I'll try it, but I'm not that savvy yet.
Well, I know. So we have to get savvy on our welcoming.
Yeah.
Well, so the show, a little bit about the history of the show. So the show was created in part due to the pandemic starting, and there's some history about it that Sandy actually had started it, and most of you know that have been on here. Hi, Kathy, and that. And that she was going to be in Israel, and then she didn't go on the trip because of the pandemic, and wanted to continue to have a live because she'd planned to do a live in Israel, and so she did it basically at the same time and invited Suzanne and I to be on with us since we're all life coaches to talk about this. But our goal is basically to give a voice to start to talk about the pandemic, but in a way that we can help people understand what's going on a little bit about staying calm. So we try to throw lots of information out there about, what's going on, how people are feeling about the pandemic, all the different aspects of it. But our main focus is to bring some sense of calm to it and just a place where people can talk about it. And so we really want and encourage you to put your comments in about anything that we're talking about especially the topic that we're going to cover. And typically on Thursday nights, we try to cover a topic and just surround ourselves with information and ideas around this topic. And Suzanne and I were talking about this earlier in the week, and what came up for us was this feeling of letting your guard down now that things are starting to open up a little bit and people are starting to get out. And how is that making us feel? And what's going on for you? And we're going to talk about what's going on for us as we've gotten out and sort of let our guard down a little bit and how that feels to us. And I think we both have some stories about situations where we've been out in the world and there's been some good situations where we felt really good about it and some not so good situations where we felt a little strange about it. And I think it's interesting. We've got some stories about this, and I would love to hear from you guys how you're feeling about getting out. Does it feel awkward? Does it feel good? Does it feel a little bit strange? All that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about that tonight, hopefully in detail and just flush out some of these ideas. Hi, Michelle. Nice of you to join us. And so please, those that are on here, please share with us your ideas about getting out now that things are starting to open up. How do you feel about them opening them up? But more importantly, if you've been out, what's come up for you? What are situations that's happened? So Suzanne, you had said that you've been in a couple situations that is things you started to get out, and you had a couple of different stories about what had happened to you. Why don't you kick off on some of your ideas and of what you had done as you started to get out there and what came up for you and some of the feelings that came up for you?
Well, it's been actually quite lovely for me to take my walks and see no traffic. And today there was all sorts of traffic, and I waited at the stoplight forever. And it's like, I wish somehow. I want the best of both worlds.
Right.
That nobody's out, but our economy is still rolling. But so last weekend, I've been getting out. Like I go to the grocery store, and I've gotten to Target, and I think we've gone to like the Home Depot or, something like that to get flowers and soil and things like that. And that's pretty much about it. But whenever I go, we wear our mask and keep this sanitizer in the car, and then the grocery store, bringing it back in and doing all the sanitization, disinfecting, and kind of got that in a good feel that we're able to handle that safely. But last weekend for me, I actually had someone come over to my house, and I don't know, it was just odd. It was not completely comfortable. And then like a couple days later, I went the first time to a restaurant, or a bar restaurant. And so met some people, and we sat, and they, of course, all the people at the establishment had their mask on. We did not. And so they were wearing, we ordered, and I felt okay, but it was just a sense of just uneasiness.
Yeah.
And then, but by the end of the night, we had actually gone to another person's house, and it was a smaller group. And, I think my head just completely forgot what was going on, because, it was not socially distanced. And by the time the next morning rolled around, I was just sick, thinking, oh my goodness,
wow. You had a social
I
distancing hangover.
Yeah, I was not happy at all with how I had ended up. And then right after that, then the next night, I think we can share that we were, at a outdoor picnic,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of the same thing, excuse me, can't mute when I'm talking.
Hello, puppy.
But anyway, it was just, it's just like I had these feelings like, oh my gosh, I've been working so hard at keeping good and safe.
Right.
And yet, as this comes out, then I'm doing things and I don't feel like I have done a good job. And it's just this remorse.
Okay, so I was going to ask you what your
I don't
feelings
like that.
were. So you felt remorse.
Yeah.
Any other feelings that you felt sort of guilty?
Well, I suppose guilt is part of that, but it's just like, just a negative feeling, like, you're a hypocrite.
Right. Okay.
Why are you talking about doing all this safely, yet you went and did these things it just didn't feel safe.
So let me ask a couple questions. At the restaurant bar, so these were these, how close of friends were these? Were these close friends, acquaintances, kind of
Really close.
fairly close? So
Not really.
okay.
Actually, I had met some new people that night.
Okay, so met some new people. And so were you guys social distancing at the bar where you were sitting together, or were you within
Kind of.
6 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, so at the bar you were social distancing, but you didn't wear masks, but the staff did. Okay.
Yep.
And then the group went over to somebody's house, and for some reason at that point you were social distancing at the bar but not at the house.
Yeah, then
It just got like casual. It's like you walked in the door and it's like back to normal. It just felt like normal, right?
Your head just goes.
Well, and I've been there, and I'll talk about some stories, but I totally get that. But and that's interesting. And so then the next day you wake up and you think, oh my gosh. And I really resonate with that sort of hypocrite feeling, because I've had similar situations and I just don't know how to feel, because I have felt that uneasiness. I felt that uneasiness. And I'm thinking, if we're normal people doing the same thing everybody else is, and so I know a lot of people are feeling this, and that's why I thought it was really good to talk about this topic of letting your guard down, feeling uneasy about it, feeling guilty, feeling maybe ashamed, feeling, whatever the feelings are. They're all normal human feelings, but this is such an abnormal situation that all these normal things that we wouldn't think twice about, we're having to think about these things in ways that we never did before. And I think a lot of people are wondering what to do. And I know that. So at the gathering that we went to, it was out at a park. It was sort of a birthday party, and there was about 12 of us, I think, and we were in our lawn chairs or whatever, and we were socially distanced, and then we had a bonfire. And although I think we were still fairly socially distanced, although maybe not technically 6 feet apart, but still there was a distance, and nobody was wearing masks. And for me, there is a distinction between wearing a mask indoors and out. So I basically think if you're indoors, you should wear a mask. And we'll talk about that a little bit more detail in a bit. But if you're outdoors, my feeling is that wearing a mask isn't as necessary as long as you're social distancing, you're 6 feet apart. But again, that's not exact science. I mean, sometimes if somebody sneezed, it could go 6 feet. They say now a sneeze could go 6 feet or further, but we were outdoors. So for me, wearing a mask isn't as critical. Now, what was interesting was, as we were sitting there having a little party, and we were laughing and dancing and singing, and we were having a great time. And there was this little group that was gathering off to the side. And I noticed that they were gathering, and they all had masks on, and they were kind of waiting around. And it turns out, I think they were like a hiking group or a group that was going to go on a walk together. And they all had their masks on, and they were outside. And it was interesting because I kind of saw them glancing over at us, and I sort of felt like, oh, wow, they're probably thinking, why are we don't have masks on? What are we doing? And frankly, I was looking at them thinking, what are you guys wearing masks for? You're outdoors. So there was this sort of reciprocal shaming, if you will, and it's not really shaming, but I'm trying to find a word because I've noticed that there is this pandemic shaming going on out there, and it's basically, if you're in the grocery store and you don't have a mask on, you're going to get those looks. And I'm one of them. I remember I'm in the store. I feel like if you're inside, especially at a grocery store, that you should have a mask on. And the people that didn't have masks on, I'm thinking, why don't you have your mask on? Now, I'm not, chastising them or anything, but I'm thinking that. So in a form of it, I'm shaming them in a form. And so I go out, actually, so before I went into the grocery store the other day, I had got my Starbucks, and I was so excited to go get my Starbucks Nitro cold brew. Just love those things. Miss them so much. So I went to the drive-thru, I got it, and I'm about to go in the grocery store. And I thought, I'm going to take a picture, and I put my mask on in the car before I go in, because it's one of those that ties up there. And so I put the mask on, and but I snapped the picture, and I was outside when I snapped the picture. And I had people posting there, why are you wearing a mask when you're outside? And so they were shaming me, basically saying, you're outside, why are you wearing a mask? Now I told them, I said, well, because I'm going inside. But it's so interesting that this is going on. And the thing is that nobody's trying to harm anybody, but this is going on in our lives, and it's going on social media for sure. And it's like, we don't know how to feel about this kind of stuff. And everybody's got their opinions on everything. And unfortunately, there's no exact science. There's no exact right information right now about what to do, when to do it, how to do it. It's just a lot of opinions floating around. And unfortunately, even scientific opinions, there doesn't seem to be a status. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about a CDC report that came out. And if the CDC should be that, I sort of think maybe they should be for the United States. But even they are being pressured and sometimes not following through with some guidelines. And again, guidelines are just guidelines. So what do you do? Yeah. There's all sorts of layers to this about the shaming, about the guidelines. Should you follow guidelines? Should you police those? Who's going to police those? What are the regulations? What are even the states doing? Every city, every state has different opening requirements and what they're going to allow to be open and what phase and everything. And then you got the federal government trying to do this. To me, my head just spins with the confusion of all this.
Well, and I think, leave it to human beings to bring out the dramatic and complicate the situation. In the beginning, it was it was such a shock that this was happening to everybody, and it was such a unifying or ordeal, and but yet over time, in a very short amount of time, we figured out how we can separate, and through the shaming and
I know.
kidding people about wearing their mask in their cars, and it's just like, what happened to everybody? I mean, this is affecting everyone. What happened to us all, standing strong together and supporting each other, because we're all equally affected. So, yeah, I was just thinking about the human nature of this, the whole everything that's happened, from the TP issue to the disinfectants to now the meat. It's just, we as humans can just completely screw this
Yeah,
up.
we can drive some crazy stuff out there. Let me read a
Yes,
few comments.
yeah.
So Mark says that the polarization of following versus not is maddening. Someone not wearing a mask and going to the wrong way on the aisle is observing the death penalty for some. Yeah, I mean, there's such judgment that rolls out there. Hey, Larry, how you doing? Larry says that he listened to an interview with a data guru yesterday and says that the data on the coronavirus is nothing to be worried about, just like any other virus. I was shocking on the data he was sharing worldwide. Yeah, and Larry, I totally agree, because I've seen a lot of so-called experts share some data, and it looks great. The data looks really interesting. And then you've got another expert that shows some other data, and it looks a little bit different, and their interpretation is a little different. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan, always been. He's sort of the father of life coaches, as far as I can see. And he's pushing an agenda now that's basically trying to share data. And he went out, he's got enough money, he's went out and talked to so-called all the experts, or a bunch of them, and has compiled some data. It's some very interesting data that basically was saying that this is nothing more than the flu, a little bit more, but basically like the flu, and that we're going way overboard. That's his opinion, and I like some of his ideas, but then I go out and I see a bunch of other data that supports other information. So I've come to the conclusion that right now there is no expert. There is no one set of data. There is a lot of information on a lot of data, and we're on our own in this right now. We've all got to just go with what we feel is the right thing to do for us individually, because unfortunately there is no exact data. And social media, on the good side, we're connecting. On the bad side, it allows all this crazy data to be out there. And it's basically you just pick and choose which sort of data either you see that day or what resonates with your opinion. It's basically the confirmation bias. If you find some data that fits to your confirmation bias, you're going to go for it. And, and it's human nature. We want control. We hate this. We hate this uncertainty. And we all are looking for a sense of control. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. People, what I don't get, and maybe somebody can help me explain this, what I don't really get is why people feel the need to share some of that data with other people on social media. Frankly, that just is trying to sort of prove people's point. Like, I'm right. Here's something to show you. I just don't think it helps. I wish people wouldn't do it, because they don't know that it's data. They may resonate that with that, or at least preface it and say, you know what, I know there's a lot of data out here. Here's just one that I saw that might, be interesting for somebody. But they don't. They say, look at this. Look at this. This is the answer. And it's not. It's not the answer. And there's so much data.
And doesn't it all boil down to, with whether we were in a COVID crisis or not, what we do and what we choose to do during our 24 hours each day is a choice, and we take the information we have for that day and we make our choice. And
Right.
So.
And you base it on, you try to base it on the people that you follow, that you respect, like Tony Robbins. I follow and respect him a lot. And I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm just not saying that I think he's absolutely right either. And again, it's not necessarily his opinion. He's taking information from other people.
Yeah.
And I agree. And really, what I have to always remind myself, and I try to remind others of this too, as much as I can, and that is, we have to have grace. We have to have calm and grace in all of this, because there is no right answer. And even if we thought there was, I mean, just even in society before this, there were so many opinions about everything. I mean, look at our political situation and how divided we are as a country. This is only going to exacerbate that. But I think in the time of when there's so much uncertainty and fear, and I think it was one of the reasons we started this show, was to help bring some ideas about calm. And so for me, I always try to remind people, it's like, when you get wired up about this kind of stuff, and especially if you're really in fear, and if you've had some underlying anxiety issues, and this has pushed you up over the top, to really be aware of this and to do things in your life to really push this back, because, gosh, we need our immune systems to be healthy now more than ever. And stress may be one of the number one reasons that it attacks our immunity system, compromises our immunity system, our immune system. And we need it strong now. We need it more than ever in case, we are, get this virus. We need our immune system to be strong. And stress is a terrible, stress reducer. So we've got to stay, sort of aware of this. But I just, because I can get wrapped up in it just like anybody else. And I do, and I get frustrated, and I start this, that, and the other thing. And then I just have to say, just have some grace. And I've got a story. I got a story I can share, but I wanted to about this a little bit. But why don't we go back to you, Suzanne, and just, you got any other examples or situations that you wanted to talk about?
Well, all along, hopefully, I've learned at this point in my life that grace is what I need to do with myself. But all along, I've been okay with things. And, I think I shared a couple weeks ago, it kind of hit me, but I've recovered from that. And yeah, I've let my guard down somewhat. I pull it back in. Someone talked to me the other day about, that's okay. You can get a speeding ticket every now and then, and that tells you to slow down.
Right.
So I felt like last weekend I got a speeding ticket, and so yeah, I slowed down a little bit, and now I'm, it's like, okay, well, what do I feel comfortable with? I mean, I actually, I've been taking walks with people, and there's the dating scene. If you're trying to meet people, it's kind of a crazy thing. I know the younger people, they don't see, well, why can't I see my boyfriend or my girlfriend? And I've been meeting people, and I, try to keep my distance, but there's a lot of things that I just don't feel comfortable with. And I would rather just like, hey, we can Skype till the cows come home. And that's where I feel the most comfortable. But, yeah, I like what you said about just nobody knows, and we just take it one day at a time. And I mean, I don't know what else to do. Yeah, that's where I feel the most comfortable. And it's okay. Every morning I wake up and I do my same things that I've always done. I make a gratitude list. I try to move my body. I don't turn on the news, except to try to listen to the weather a little bit. I communicate a whole lot on social media, Zoom, Skypes, whatever. And trying to find, for me, I'm actually just trying to find the new openings. Like, this is a great thing for life coaching. There's so many people that need to talk about what they want to do. Maybe they're changing their careers right now, and they're changing the way they think about how they get through the day, and being intentional. So, being intentional when we start the day is, I think, a great way to keep our immune system. I actually today, one quick story. Today, got some things going on, families coming in. I've got kids coming in. I'm very excited, and I've got other family coming in, and it's getting a little messy on how we're all going to see each other, and grandparents that are old, and
So
people
can you
that
tell
have
me a
low
little bit?
immunities.
Can you share a little bit of that with us about how are you going to do this? As far as, so you've got people coming from different parts of the city,
Yeah,
different parts of the country.
yeah. So my son and his significant other are coming from a hot spot in Colorado, but they have been very quarantined, and so I feel safe with them. They've been quarantined, and so they're going to actually come stay with us. And at some point, what do where do we
Right.
start or end? And so we'll continue our disinfecting, and we're not going to wear face masks, I don't think, in our house. But then we'll go see the grandparents, and we'll wear masks, and we'll keep our distance.
Right.
And it won't be the same kind of visits that we had where we
Right.
have dinner
Because
and hang out at their house for hours.
they're in the older compromised. I
Yeah.
mean, they're older, so they're compromised, and
And
I
I'm
think.
older and compromised. I have asthma. I do not want to think about me getting this because it would not be any fun. So it's just like the whole thing is like, where do you start? Well, that's letting our guard down. Let my guard down. It's like, okay, we're gonna lean forward with this. We're gonna do our best to keep clean
Yeah. Well,
and aware.
I like that because even from the beginning of this pandemic, that was my whole thought on this was how can I stay as safe as I can be, and also stay safe for the people that are close to me that I live with. I live with a daughter, and if I am going to be around any elderly people, which right now I'm not, but my thought was, how can I go to bed at night feeling like I've done the best I could, but not letting this drive me crazy, and not letting this, be so paranoid about it that I raise my stress level, because that was a big thing for me. And so from the very beginning, I adopted this plan for myself, and it was just my personal plan, but it allowed me to go to sleep at night, because I did have my son who lives down on the plaza here in Kansas City, lives with a roommate. And so it's like, how am I going to see my son? Because I don't know what they're doing, if they're going out doing whatever. And how do you date and have a girlfriend, at this time that you don't live with or whatever? How do you deal with that? So what I came up with was, okay, so I know that I have to go to the grocery store, and I might go out. That's pretty much all I do is go to the grocery store, and I would take the precautions that everybody said. At times I wear gloves. I don't wear gloves anymore, but I wear a mask, and I'm very careful about how I disinfect. Early days, we would bring home the groceries, we'd wipe them down with disinfectant. So, we were doing everything we really could to mitigate the chances of getting it without going, totally crazy. But I was going out. So was it a 100% guarantee? No, of course not. It wasn't. But I was doing enough that I could feel really good about it. So then I said to my son, look, are you going out, and what are you doing? And he explained to me that he wasn't. He was pretty much locked down. He wasn't going out doing a lot of stuff. He was talking with a lot of people on Skype and different gaming platforms and stuff. But he had a roommate. So I said, well, what is your roommate doing? Because if his roommate brings it in and does whatever, then he's going to get affected. And then, of course, I could get affected. And, of course, underlying all this is that you don't know you're affected and you're infecting other people, but you have it. And so you really have to assume that everybody has it, which some people still don't get that. But that's the assumption with the whole mask thing, is that you have to assume you have it. So I said, so he assured me that his roommate had been locked down for 14 days after he was out and hadn't gone out. And then he hadn't gone out. So, okay, I feel comfortable that you now, and I made it clear that these are the parameters, that you have to do a 14-day quarantine if you've been out or thought you've been out with anybody. So he did. So then I got to see him. That was great. And so for me, that was the situation, was that I made sure that the people that I was around was a very tight-knit group, and that I knew where they were. And so if you just add another person into that mix, it then exponentially starts to make it harder to figure out how they've been quarantined. And it can get crazy. So I kept that really, really small. And So my thought was, I'll keep this really small, and that's how we'll deal with this. Okay, so now we're coming out. We're in this 3 months. We're starting to go out more. And so we're going out, seeing people. So I'm trying to take it to the next level and say, look, I want to go out. But if I'm outdoors, I don't think I have to wear a mask because the virus isn't going to be as enclosed. I want to stay socially distanced. And that's how I'm going to deal with that. Now, if I get into a situation where I go and I'm uncomfortable because either people aren't wearing masks inside or I'm forced to be close in with people, then I'm going to have to figure out what to do. And so I was put in those situations too, where all of a sudden I'm out with people and I just forgot about it. When I was out with some people and I was in a situation where I was close to people that I didn't really know. And I remember that same feeling the next day, like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I felt like a hypocrite because I had made a big deal out of this plan that I had created in my head so I could sleep well at night. And then I went out and did this. And this was like a month ago. And so then now as we're getting out closer, I'm still trying to do that same thing. But sometimes you get caught in a situation. So I'm going to ask the people on the show here, I'm going to ask you, Suzanne, if this happened to you. What do you do when you're trying really hard to social distance and stay as healthy as you can? Because we know that it's going to uptick a little bit. But what we really don't want is to get so much more of the virus and people getting sick that we overwhelm our hospitals again. And we're right back at the beginning. So, I mean, that's the worst thing. So we don't want that to happen, but we need to get out. So how are we going to get out and still not overwhelm the hospitals and get this virus? And so have you ever been in a situation where all of a sudden someone comes in, they lean in for the big hug? What do? I actually caved and just hugged because I was so mortified. I didn't know what to do. And then later I told some people, no, I'm not shaking hands. But has anybody been in that situation where they've been out and it's like they don't really want to shake hands or they don't want to go for the hug, but it happened? And what do you do about it? It's like, these aren't bad people. They're not meaning to do this. And we're all just trying to do the best we can. But what are the feelings that are coming up? Have you been in that situation, Suzanne?
Oh my goodness. So funny. Well, yes. So a couple different situations. So, you see somebody and you haven't seen them. I ran into a high school friend at the store the other day and seen her for 30 some years.
Right.
And we were like, and so we kind of did this,
right.
Like air hugs. And so that's happened a few times. And then, there's the, what are they called? The COVID bump or whatever.
Elbow bump, yeah.
And then, so I actually was with someone on a kind of a quote date walking, and we had done a little walk and everything was, distance. I felt very in control and everything. And the darn person did what you called it, the kiss of death.
Leaned in?
And I was like, oh!
He did the lean in?
Yeah.
He did the lean in hug or the lean in kiss?
It was quick.
And like, so you're like, oh shit, what do I do now?
I pretty much said that to myself out loud. Like,
wow.
Okay, so everything I've done is completely negated now. And so anyway, but yeah, the kiss of death, it's like... The
kiss of death. For real. And here's the thing, it's like...
very uncomfortable. That's not cool. And we talked about the respect. You have to have respect for people's comfort levels, whether they want to wear their mask in the car or if they don't want to wear their mask or,
I think your charm just came over him and he couldn't help himself. Obviously that was it. He was delirious. He lost his mind and boom, he leaned in.
But even, I mean, that's like third base in this time. But even the hug seems almost wrong. And how weird is that?
I know, and it's weird. And the thing is, that's why I want to talk about this, because we're all feeling this weirdness, right? Come on, people, chime in here. You got to be feeling this weirdness. And it's nobody's right or wrong. It's like, what do you do? Yeah, Larry says, thank God you lived through it.
Well, let's see. Yeah, it's been
As,
over 2 weeks,
okay,
so
good.
I guess I
You made
can.
it. You made it. But I'll tell you,
Death.
and that's the thing that I'm glad that we're focusing on that. Again, we're life coaches, and there's a lot of things we could talk about, but we want to. It's about emotions, about feelings, it's about the real inner stuff, And we can talk all day, and believe me, and I do, and it's sometimes fun to talk about the conspiracy theories and about this, that, and the other thing. But really, our wheelhouse is really about how do people feel, and how can we all feel better about this. And I think part of it is just being able to talk about it. I kind of waited too late, but I put out there if anybody wanted to come on Skype and actually talk with us. And in fact, we're going to hopefully do that a little bit more. If anybody now still wants to do it, call me on Skype and I can pop you in here just to give you a story. If I want to hear stories about normal things like going on, dates or going out to see someone that you haven't seen for 30 years and they lean in for the hug or whatever. And you're like, and what does it feel like, and, because I think that's really important for us to feel like we can talk about that kind of stuff because we're all bottling it in probably. We've all got friends and this stuff is happening to us. You've got family that's coming in. Hopefully you guys, it sounds like you talked about this and you kind of, or, you've laid out a plan that you're okay. You can sleep at night and feel like you're still in your integrity and, but being as careful as you can. And you're right. At some point, we have to move forward. We are going to have to move forward. Until there's a vaccine for this, we're going to be in this quandary. And things are going to open up, but the virus is still out there, and there's always going to be potential to get it. And even with the vaccine, there will be, but until it becomes more like the flu, we're going to be having these weird situations come up. And I just don't want all the psychiatric wards to get filled up because people are freaking out. So let's just talk about this. How can we deal with some of this stuff? And part of it is just talking about it. And, hopefully we can come up with a few perspectives, really nothing new and earth shattering, but, some things that we can do to stay calm during this. So I've got to, Larry puts up common sense. Larry, I totally agree, and you seem like a very common sense guy. I think I'm a common sense person too. These situations bring out uncommon sense, and it isn't because we're bad people or it's because of fear and uncertainty makes us all behave differently. When you don't feel like you have control over your life, and frankly, we just don't right now. Anybody who thinks they do is fooling themselves. We are having to do things that are uncommon, and so I agree. I wish we'd all use common sense, but right now, this situation is bringing out a lot of craziness for us, and we just have to talk about it and talk about it to our friends, talk about it to our family, and don't be ashamed to tell people how you feel, about not hugging or whatever, because hopefully people get it. Not everybody's going to have the same stance. There are people that don't take this serious at all. Well, that's okay. As long as they don't inflict that on me, I certainly respect that opinion.
Well, and one thing I thought is like, okay, I've had a couple of people that I've broken the social distance, and it just is, I don't feel right about it, and I'm not happy with the way I behaved and allowed these things to happen. So, gosh, it goes back to your whole personality, the whole complexity of your personality. Do you let this happen to you in normal life? Do you let people break your boundaries and you're a people pleaser? Sandy should be on right now because she would certainly speak to this because I think that's where I've been. It's just like, well,
Me too.
I want this to be a happy situation. I want this to be a good relationship. I want them to think I like them, they like me, whatever. So, but you can always start over you can always, like, if you feel that bad, it's that the walk of shame
Right.
the next morning where you think,
Right.
I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, this is a whole new walk of shame.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, exactly. And but you can. I mean, for heaven's sakes, please do that. Just, own this. Own this. It's kind of a life and death
It
deal.
kind of is. I mean, it is. I mean, to a certain extent.
Like
What did you
I
mean start over?
decided, I felt like what I can say now is like, after this has happened to me recently, I am just not comfortable, and I really want to just continue in this manner. And this is how I'm going to be able to do it. And you know what? Life or death. I'm not willing to, am I willing to risk, I get very dramatic in my mind when I self-talk about this, but am I willing to risk laying there on a ventilator with my family not being able to say goodbye to me?
Yeah. Well, and
I've been playing with fire. I guess I was.
yeah.
But are
But
you?
well, that's a good point.
About
And these are the feelings that we're all having. We are all having these. Let me read. Michelle said that in the beginning she was feeling guilty, like she was on the run. It says that I was like, she felt like she was doing something wrong, and she was just getting in her car going to the grocery store. Right? We're just doing the bare minimums, and we feel like we're doing something wrong, and this collectively is going to wreak havoc on the energy, to get a little woo out there, of the universe. But also our immune systems, and the thing is, right now we can't quite get away from it, and then that's okay. But it is what it is. So let's talk about it. You said something. I think you said something about, well, you can start over. And what I wonder what if you meant was that if this situation happens, you go out and you don't social distance, and you wake up in the morning and you got the walk of shame and you feel bad about it, you can always then go to your friends and say, look, you know what, that was really fun last night, but you know what, I didn't feel comfortable about it. Nothing against you guys, but I'm just going to stay socially distant. So, and I'll be the first to say that I'm struggling actually very much with this, and how to talk to some of my friends about this. I'm struggling with it a lot, frankly, because I like my friends. I don't want them to think I'm weird or whatever. I don't think that they're weird. It's just that it seems in certain circumstances we have different opinions on how to deal with this, and it's okay, but it's a little bit different. What else? Michelle says, "Yeah, froze on us there, Suzanne. I don't know if you can come back, but I think you're gone."
Oh,
You're back. Yay.
here I am.
Go back. Okay, Michelle says she's mindful of others and respects how they are handling it, but she's social distancing at stores, and she's not wearing a mask, which is fine. And then Larry says, does anyone think about the bad chemicals that are in our groceries that we eat every day that's causing death? It's another great point, Larry. Another great point. And I know Larry is all about the health and the products, and sells a great product that combats the health in our water and a lot of our food. Larry, that's a whole nother topic, maybe. Because it's kind of those things, the things that we don't see and can't feel or whatever, we just don't pay attention to. And so even though we probably could read on the back of the labels all the bad stuff, a lot of us don't. And our life is, and society in general, and the media and the advertising pushes this so hard. We were just talking the other day about how hard it is to eat healthy. I mean, when you go to Whole Foods, Sandy was there the other day, and it's like, oh my God, it's like whole paycheck, right? It takes your whole paycheck just to live and eat fairly healthy food, which is crazy. But, we can't see this virus, but now we're seeing the effects of it. So it's like, we're seeing what happens, and that's why, and it's being it's been shoved into our face. And then we have all the data and all the, going back to that, it's like, unfortunately, who do we believe, and what good data out there? And Larry says you have to just go with what you feel is right, and I think it comes back to that, and that's what I try to always tell myself. And is, look, how do I go to bed at night and sleep good? Because I also, I want to be, I want to be mindful of my friends, of other people that I live with, my friends, my family, people in the grocery store, and you gotta do, what you do. And I always try to remind myself, because sometimes it's really hard for me, is just have grace. Because sometimes I'm just like, what the are you doing? And just have grace, because everybody's trying to do the best they can do with what they have at the moment. I firmly believe that. So go ahead. You got anything else?
What? Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, am I blurry?
You are blurry. I don't know why you're so blurry all of a sudden, but you're still there. We can hear you.
I had to actually text my daughter to take my dog out. So
I don't know why that made you blurry.
Evidently, that's not it. I don't know. I cleared it all, but
we can hear you.
Yeah. So we were going to talk about what actually we do every day.
Good point. What can we do? We got about 10 minutes left. Go ahead. Yeah. You can start.
Well, like I said before, and I always say, I wake up happy in the morning anyway. I'm a morning person, and I'm thrilled to wake up and get a second chance, a new chance. So when you wake up happy, I just try to, from the get-go, just a fresh start. Eat right. Have a minute to visualize what my day is going to be like, ask whatever your higher power is to help you guide and look for the good for that day. I send my gratitudes. I actually have now 2 friends that I'm sending gratitude texts to, and I try to exercise or stretch, and they're super basic things. And I connect with people. I don't hold grudges. I don't get mad at people. This morning was a little off because we're dealing with some family stuff, but, it's just like I got set straight, but, it's the same every day, whether you're in a COVID crisis or you're in Christmas or holidays or whatever. It's the same, I think, recipe to get through your day. You just do the next right thing.
Yeah, do the next right thing. And like what you said, it's some basic stuff. And before we came on, it was an article I was watching, and it said, when your car is low on gas, it's important to refuel to find that energy for your car. And so I think that we're all kind of running on low fuel just because there's so much uncertainty going on out there. Mm-hmm. And this article had just really basic stuff, which is great. And I'm just going to read them again. So it's like, just breathe. When you find yourself kind of tensing up, just take a big, deep breath. Sometimes, we forget to do that. I know I do. And then also pray and or meditate. It's so important. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it, but when we feel out of control, there's nothing better than trying to connect with the higher power and just let that connection infuse to feel better. There's nothing better. Exercise is huge. We know all the data about that, and it's pretty simple. Just getting out for a walk, and we can all do that. And we can wear a mask or not, but we can get out and walk and exercise, because it really, really does help our state, our being, not only for the health part of it, the immune system, but just our state of being. It really, really affects that. And
how about music?
Well, music.
I was talking to you, and you were on your bicycle ride listening to 80s music.
I was listening to 80s music, and it was funny because it brought back a lot of great memories, which music can do. Music is another great one. That's simple stuff. Here's one that a lot of people don't think about, and that's sleep. I'm a huge sleep proponent, big fan. I always try to get 8 to 9 hours, and I'm lucky because I usually can get that. I know a lot of people don't, but if this is affecting your sleep, just again try to sleep a little more. And if you're tired during the day and you have some time, take a little nap. I've been starting these little micro naps because I can, and they have been doing wonders for me. I set my alarm for 40 minutes because I don't want to go too long, and I normally I would never like lay on my bed because like, oh my God, I would, fall asleep for 3 hours, whatever. But I set my alarm. I do a little 40-minute micro nap, not every day, but when I think I need it. And it's done amazing wonders for me. So maybe try that. Any of these little things that we can do. We always want to close the show and leave with a few things that you can just think about. You're probably already thinking about them and doing them, that we can just stay a little bit calm. Try to combat this crazy uncertainty with anything that we can do.
And I really think what you said to end this is just talk about this. Talk about it with friends, family. Seek a life coach or someone to just talk about. Get it out of your heads. Like, I felt uneasy about this the other day.
Yeah.
And just massage that whole thought, because otherwise it's right in here, and then that is just sick.
Yeah, it just spins around. So, well, thanks for joining us, guys. I hope you got something out of this. Please share it and pass it along. We're trying to get the message out there that this is crazy times, that it's nobody's fault. There's all sorts of ideas and opinions. We love to hear your ideas and opinions. Especially would still love to hear if you're watching this on a replay. And I would love to hear your comments. Comment on the post on our page. How you're feeling. How have you let your guard down? Did you feel weird? The new walk of shame. Tell us about any stories that you have. We'd love to hear that. We read all of them, and we'd love to respond back to them. But also share it with your friends. Let's just always know that we have this place where we can come together and we can talk about some of these things that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about. How are we feeling through this whole crisis and pandemic? And as we move out, it's still weirder. We say we're reopening. Well, that's just another phase of weirdness, because we don't know how to deal with this as we're coming forward. Because it's not like reopening
1.5 or something.
Yeah. Who knows? But again, thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you either Monday, Wednesday, or Friday morning, 8:45, or we'll see you Thursdays here on the evening edition. Thanks, Suzanne and Sandy. Hope you're having a great time on your vacation, and that you come back with some nice sun and you're chilled. And remember, get ready, because we got lots of work to do. Because there's lots of people that need some new, fresh ideas, and we're gonna be out there. So, thanks everybody, and we'll see you later.
Bye bye.